Um, what are some use cases and primary features of Web3?
Well, today everybody's in metaverse, so obviously the main part that is going into Web3 will obviously be gaming, because gaming is the first attraction and have a big uptake of users. But I see Web3 to be very important moving forward when it comes to transportation and engagement. Obviously, e-commerce will be the biggest player in the future, but one that I like a lot, and I think it's going to be one of the top three, is actually education. What I mean with education, I mean trade education in the sense of cooperation will make collaborations with universities and other stakeholders to give a different way of how you can engage and change education for the future, not only for companies, but in the private sector, but also in the public sector. Because that engagement part is what the youth, in my case, view, anybody that's 20 years younger than me, is where they're engaging today already. And this is where everything is going to change for the future. So we're going to live in two different layers, I believe, for the next 10, 15 years before it's going to change totally to the engagement in the metaverse, I assume.
Can you explain DAO and how they apply to Web3?
I like DAO a lot for two reasons. It can be used in the public sector very well, and it can be used in the private sector very well. In the public sector, imagine, okay, in this case, because you're in Melbourne, imagine the city of Melbourne, the municipality of Melbourne, introduces DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. Is that, for example, the people of Melbourne will have a voice equally. Say, for example, Melbourne is going to have the annual festival. So why should the mayor or the people in that specific municipality board dictate and decide what they want for the people, when it's actually the voice of the people that should dictate what should be, say, for example, the annual festival in Melbourne? So by decentralize that part and have it on the blockchain and be able that everybody has their voice, and then having this kind of components in place that makes everything fair and square and transparent in voting, in deciding. So DAO in the public sector, if they are willing, or if they have encouraged or courage to go that way, I think DAO will change a lot, because it will be that transparent, fair play in the public sector. And it can be utilized in so many ways when it comes to in the private sector as well, when it comes to organization, when it comes to human resources, when it comes to setting my business structures or principles. Because if I have an application with hundreds of thousands or millions of users, I can actually implement DAO to be able to dictate how the future of my company will progress, or how things should change with having transparent voice of everybody that is involved in my application. So I see it's a really, really good thing, but unfortunately in the public sector or in the government sector, I think they are scared of this feature because they lose control.
It's the same with a lot of disruptive technology. When it's first adopted, then the big players that used to have something to offer fall away, and they know that that's going to happen, so they oppose it with all their might. And hopefully we can move past that and people can be educated about exactly how a DAO works, and they can relax and know that it's a fair system.
Exactly. Or for example, you have in anything when it comes to family planning, anything, it can be utilized in such a nice way, because it's a really an interesting way if you look further into DAO, how you can utilize it in anything you do when it's a community involved.
What are Web3 apps?
Good question. It can be done in different ways. How I see a Web3 app is that it's a decentralized application that is utilized and not from my side. It's actually the end user is going to decide how the data is going to be utilized in any transaction. So say, for example, I do a Web3 application in healthcare. So I will be in control of my information and data, and I decide when I'm going to share that information or if it's going to be monetized, that information. So it takes away, like we discussed with the centralized systems with Facebook, etc., where you actually give them all the rights and all the monetization for your data.
Like Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah, one of them.
One of the big ones.
Yes.
How useful are NFTs to Web3?
Well, I think it's an amazing product, but unfortunately, in my view here in Dubai, 99% is used NFT for art, for these kind of things that we are minting something to give away. But if you look of what NFT is, a smart contract that can be programmed to be utilized for a transaction. And this is where it becomes interesting. And you can see, for example, here, Emirates Airlines, I think Etihad Airlines is moving into that part where they're making an NFT where it can be utilized for ticketing. So you can have a transparent, say, for example, if you take the structure of the airline industry today, you have IATA, International Air Transport Agency, that is on the top. Every airline is a member in the IATA organization. And every time you buy a ticket and you have a connecting flight, for example, with another airline, there is a huge back-end complexity of transaction. Who is going to have what from that transaction of that sold airline ticket and all the taxes, because each country has a lot of different taxes they add on a ticket depending where you're buying it, or etc. So with an NFT, you can actually minimize the cost and actually reduce the cost of an airline ticket profoundly by utilizing NFTs and building in the reward system and the loyalty for an example, the end users. So they can actually engage more with them, you as a loyalty partner with them. So I think NFT is just scratching what it actually can do. Unfortunately, it has only been used for art, in my view, on selling apes and so on. And I think that was the fade, but actually the technology itself is really amazing. And for example, in real estate transactions, in deed transactions, in any kind of cross-border transaction where you need to make sure that it's utilized and the payment will not take place until everything in the smart contract has been completed. So there is no fishing and trying to change when you have done it. Obviously, the biggest problem has been today with NFTs and when people are minting NFT is that there has been no regulatory, in my view of regulatory, I mean, assessing that specific contracts in the right way, because many times there have been mistakes. And if the smart contract is not deployed or executed correctly, that you have seen many times in NFTs that they have not been able to recover data or recover money or whatever it has been. So there, a framework globally, I think, is needed. How you're going to certify or how this NFT smart contracts technology should be approached. And when that is done, I think you're going to see a lot of uptake in industries utilizing NFT, specifically for transactions.
So what's the difference Sorry,
Sorry.
what's the difference between Web3 and metaverse? I think that they get confused quite a bit.
Yeah, Web3 is actually the infrastructure, in my view, and metaverse is a component of Web3. So the base is the blockchain technology. Cryptocurrencies will obviously utilize to be able to enable an ecosystem within metaverse, for example, but obviously it can be fiat as well. But Web3 is where all the components of the infrastructure is in place to be able to utilize metaverse. So in a short kind of description.
Short description is good. We've got someone just wrote a message, actually, more of a message than anything else by the look of it. Hi, Ola, I appreciate your time today. In your role as an angel investor, what are some exciting Web3 sectors that you expect will grow interest this year? That was from Martin.
Yeah, I think education, because in the beginning, it will be more commercial from the industry point of view. Say, for example, I am a Mitsubishi, or I'm a Toyota, or I'm a big car manufacturer, or I am a big energy mining company, whatever. To educate my personnel in the past has been send people to a classroom, educate them, etc., etc. Through Web3, you're able to immerse them, engage with the component, where you say, for example, I'm working in an electricity company, I'm going out to the bush to go to a substation, and I need to do something with that substation to repair or whatever. To have Web3 and metaverse engagement to understand and interact prior to I go out in the real field is what is lacking today in education, because education is only theory. But in metaverse and Web3, you can actually engage and see the consequences without dying, for example, just like a flight simulator, right? So I think here businesses will spend a lot of money bringing metaverse to the front run when it comes to internal training, education, and in collaboration, and giving this what they're going to build and supply with the universities to have a more trade defined university degree, not as today where it's only theory. So I think that will change.